This is the second video of a series of videos on graphing polynomials. And what we're doing here is we're graphing polynomials by hand. Two examples would be this graph right here, or this equation right here. And what we're going to focus on this video is the first step. So here are the steps to graphing polynomial functions by hand. And then what we're going to do is find the leading term, the leading coefficient, and the degree. And so let's just look at a couple examples. So let's look at this first example that we have here. So we're going to graph minus 2x4 plus minus 6x3 plus 20x squared minus 6x. So to find the leading term, you don't necessarily look at the term in the front. What you do is you look at the term with the highest power. So this is x to the fourth, x to the third, x to the squared, or the second power, and this is just plain x. So the highest power is 4. So we say the leading term is minus 2x to the fourth. The degree is simply the highest power of the polynomial. So in this case, the degree is 4. And it turns out that it's important whether the degree is an even number or an odd number. The degree is 4, so that's going to be an even number, an even degree. And the next step is we want to find the leading coefficient. So the leading term and leading coefficient are very similar ideas. The leading coefficient is simply the coefficient of the leading term. So if you look at the leading term here, minus 2x to the fourth, the leading coefficient is just minus 2. And that's the first step. And what I'd like to do is just go through a number of examples and just to make this clear. So let's say we have g to the x is equal to 3 minus 2x squared plus 5x to the fourth plus 3x to the third. And the reason I wrote this example is if you notice these are not necessarily the order that you found them in. So let's find the leading term. The leading term is going to be the term with the highest power. The power here is x squared, x4, x3, so it's going to be right there. So that's going to be your leading term. 5x to the fourth. Now from that we can get the degree. The degree will simply be 4, and the leading coefficient will be 5. Let's think about why. First we find the leading term by finding the term with the highest power. That's 5x to the fourth. We look at the highest power of the polynomial. That's 4, so that's the degree. And then the leading coefficient is going to be simply the coefficient of the leading term, so that's going to be 5. Let's look at another example. This one is written in an order that we expected, so there's no problem there. The highest power is 6. So the term with that power is the leading term. Here the leading term is minus 2x to the sixth. The degree is 6. It's the highest power anywhere in the polynomial. The leading coefficient is simply minus 2. There are a couple of examples that can be a little bit more complicated. Here's one. And in this one, what you could do is you could multiply all of this out by FOIL, but that would be quite complicated. So all you really need to do is you need to find out if you multiplied all this out, what would be the term with the highest power. And it turns out that if you look at each individual term and figure out what the highest power is, then that will be the leading term. So here we have 2x. Here the highest power is x. Here it's x, but it's a squared term, so that's x squared. And minus 2x squared. It turns out if you multiply all those together, you'll get the leading term. You won't get the whole polynomial, but you will get the leading term. And here the leading term is simply negative 2x squared times x squared times x times 2x, which will be a minus 4, 2, 4, 5, 6, x to the 6th. Let's do one more example like that. Here the highest power is a negative x, an x, and a minus 3x. So that's negative, well actually this is a positive 3x cubed. Why is that? Because you have x times x times x cubed. And you have a minus 3, but you also have a minus x. So it's a negative times a negative is a positive. So the leading term now is going to be positive 3x cubed. And then you can find the degree. The degree here will be 6. The degree here will be 3. Leading coefficient minus 4 and 3.